6:30. With the approval of the minutes all the way back from November.
Oh, here comes Santos, by the way.
Here comes Santos. Got it. Hey, B. Santos, I-8. Okay, do we have a motion?
Good evening.
Hi, Brad.
Hey,
Motion to
hey,
accept.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 15th.
Okay.
16th.
Second? Anyone? Okay, Charlie, you're muted, but I saw you say I second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, good. Motions. Motion to approve the minutes has passed. Joe, you have the treasurer report?
Yes, I do. We have, at this moment, we have $13,896.40 as our available budget. That's all I got.
Okay. What I got too. Okay, as for me, just a couple of things. We have been working on the budget. We had put in for 10,000 to market Main Street, which is kind of exciting. Well, no, really, it includes, all the work that's going to be done on 65 Main. It includes Superior Bakery being sold. A lot of stuff going on down there. We also approved or put in for 2,500 for that bike repair station that we postponed from last year. And we reserved 2,500 for grant matching. We're also going to not pay the intern anymore. It's going to be paid out of the planner's office. So we won't have to budget for that.
And not as an intern. We're proposing it as an actual part-time job for a grown-up person, which makes very little difference except in the expectation that they be able to work independently.
Yeah, we're hoping to get more media and social media and stuff covered. Yeah, as you saw, we did have Senator Murphy visit 65 Main to see where state money is going. Yeah, he visited 65 Main and Teague. So that was good. And a couple of meetings ago at TBA, we had someone from the Natchog Epic bicycle tour. He said it was looking really good for this year. He had his first day of registration. They saw 80 entrants, which was up 30% from last year. He did a shout out to Charlie. Because we were at TBA, we were asking what can we do? What can the businesses do? How can we support this? And in his email, he replied, what do we really need? He said, local buzz and goodwill. While we do need some labor out of volunteers, what we really appreciate is the development of local acolytes such as Charlie Obert. So I thought you should hear that, Charlie. And maybe you got the mess, maybe you were on the mailing, I don't know. Maybe you didn't hear me.
I heard you.
Thinking.
I've fallen behind on my emails. I got some things happened over the last quarter of last year that distracted me, and I'm getting back now. I'm more focused, but I've fallen behind on my email. You said 80 people registered on the first day. They're on track now for 700.
Yeah, when he talked, they were on track for 500.
Yeah, well, the last email I saw, we almost had 500 registered already.
Yeah, I believe it. He was really
That was 2
optimistic.
weeks ago, I think, a week and a half.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's all.
it's picking up momentum as most of us expected it would. But,
Yeah,
and as my point is, it's an opportunity for businesses in this town and for residents in this town to get involved in a way that can be economically beneficial for them. So far, I haven't figured out, I don't know who to contact in the right way, but that's one of the goals. The last weekend in March, we should be looking at that as some way that it's in Thompson. It starts in Thompson. Let's market it.
yeah. And especially the TBA where it directly involves businesses. Something we've always tried to do since the bicycle races, the days of the Warrior Dash at Thompson Speedway. It's always a topic of discussion. Or at least let the businesses know. Okay, moving on. Update on businesses in Thompson. Had no new adoption of trade name papers this month in the mailbox. TBA membership is up to 60, I think, right, Dan?
He's muted,
Still muted.
but he's cheering.
61 today, I believe.
Okay.
And on that note, we've got because what you were just talking about with the bikes, we've got the restaurants now. We've got Pit Stop and Max are
Right.
both members, and we've got verbal commitments from Drafters, Thompson House of Pizza, and Milltown. So that whole effort with the restaurants is going really well.
Yeah, in case, I think we've talked about it before, but part of our TBA thing is when we leave the meeting on the second Wednesday, we usually visit one of the restaurants. So we've been to Drafters, we've been to Pit Stop, and we always tell them that we're from the TBA, you're welcome to join. The website has a lot, it lists all the benefits instead of us going into great detail, but so we're doing our part, just like EDC members try to visit local businesses. So no, that's just we get one.
I have a thought. Daniel, you just said that 4 of the restaurants in town are starting to focus on the last weekend in March. If I'm correct, what we want to consider doing is putting up yard signs with a QR code up next to the raceway where people are going in to register and to drop off their friends and whatnot, and they can say, oh, lunch, boom.
So just to be clear, we haven't talked about this. We haven't told the restaurants about this.
Okay.
We have an initiative going where we put a Dine Local page on our website. We added a separate page called Dine Local. We put all the restaurants' names and addresses on there, but that's all it is. It's just their name and address.
Oh, I see.
Now, as each one joins the TBA, we're turning that name into a clickable link where they can, and now like I said, we've gotten 2 that have actually joined and paid, and we've gotten verbal commitments from 3 more. So it looks like we've got at this point, and well, including G7, we've got 6 of the food establishments in town as members of the TBA. But now we can take that next step with it. If they know there's 1,000 bike riders coming up there, then I would imagine they would want to put some effort into getting their business.
Well, at least they should know that there's going to be nearly 1,000 bicycle riders and some of their support groups and friends coming into town for that weekend. The event is Sunday, but there's going to be people coming in and around the area. And if we could find something that will attract some of them on Saturday afternoon or evening, that's another opportunity.
That's the guy that was going to say this is huge because up till now we haven't had restaurants. We had our father's table, but never. So direct link to them. We could put out a general note saying, "Hey, the bikes are coming. Warrior Dash is coming."
Right.
Blah blah.
What's the date?
It's the last Sunday in March. I don't know without. And I don't have that.
Off the top of my head, I think that's the 26th.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Got the calendar.
And is there like a website for this thing that I could email to these people and let them?
I'll send you the link this evening.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're moving, we're going in the right direction. Okay, so that's it for businesses. We have no citizens for comments. We don't really have any old business going. But what I put under new business is the Farm Passport program, because Chair, I didn't get back to you, but you asked. I went to Karen Graphics, like we had discussed, and they do have the old passport on file. But I can't get a quote because what we had said, or what you had said, is they wanted to punch it up and make it more elaborate and more, so I can't get a quote on an idea.
Yeah, and that's fine, Brian. After the last meeting that they had, and they only meet pretty much quarterly.
Yeah.
We had left it at that, where we would potentially schedule a special meeting, which would have to have been at the end of this month, or at least early March at the latest, to discuss that. But none of them have gotten back to me. It's not clear that, well, it's not clear how much enthusiasm there really was. At the meeting, there was a lot. So I haven't abandoned it mentally as a project. But unless I get the actual commission members responding and saying they want to get together to discuss that specific project, it may be a dead letter until next year. Because again, you know, like so much of what I do is based on grant cycles. There's a particular grant through Farm Credit East, and it's a rolling deadline. They have 2 or 3 a year, but in order to make that valuable for this year, I think it was their April deadline was the only one that made any sense. And that commission's not meeting until the last Wednesday in March, according to their regular calendar. So I may reach out to them again sometime soon and say, hey, are we going to go forward with this? But I've gotten virtually no response after that initial meeting to the 2 or 3 emails I've sent out, which is a shame. I mean, I think it's got good potential. If not this year, then next year.
Okay, yeah, just so you know, I didn't, blow it off or anything. If
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I could, because they have one on file. I haven't been able to find one if I had it, but I could probably get them to make a copy. If we wanted to present it at a meeting and say, what do you want to do different? But I'm sure some of them must have the original one that we printed out.
Renee might even have some, because the last time we did it 2 or 3 years ago, she did a lot of that legwork. So she might even have a design file.
Okay, and Karen Graphics is fine with whatever we want to do. As soon as we decide if we're going to do it.
Sure.
Okay, so that was the only thing I had just to catch up on that. Now, as far as progress reports, we have first up grant applications and updates.
Woo! So let me just look at my grants folder and I'll just go in order. 65 Main is later on the agenda, so I'll leave that. Recreational Trails grant is due the 1st of March. Just today, was it today? It was just today, this afternoon. Daniel Blanchette sent me his revised site plan, which was revised based on some input from Trails Committee members and some, follow-up comments that I had, and his engineer's estimate for the parking area and traffic calming on the road. So I started in the last couple of hours at the office today, trying to revamp that budget. I've got to tinker with it a little bit. I can't just do a copy paste from last year's application, because they gave us the 16,000 that covered the stuff up front, and a little, a teeny bit more. So I do still have most of the ARPA money put aside for Trainwreck Park to use as match. But what I don't have to use as match is the Historical Society's donation of the turntable stones, because that stuff's already been bought. So I just have to, I have to make the math work out, essentially is what it is. But other than that, it is mostly a copy paste. And I'm going to be working on that pretty intensively over the next 2.5 weeks. Let's see what else is up here. I did not submit this grant, but I helped the Historical Society submit a letter of interest to CT Humanities for a grant to upgrade the AV equipment and add a handicap lift to the Riscavage Auditorium at the school. I would say they have a very high probability of award there. Brownfield cleanup grant for the mill, still waiting on the final contract from the state. The financial agreement proposal has been countersigned by all parties. So now the state's lawyers have to review it, send us a final actual document, and then all parties have to sign again. Let's see. Just today, and this is unofficial, but again, this is the Historical Society and the Conservation Commission. I had advised them to submit to the Eastern Region Tourism District Marketing Partnership Grant Program. I am on that grants committee, and we reviewed applications today. I did have to recuse myself from the Thompson application, but I can tell you that it is going to be funded, and that is to produce a guided tour brochure for the cemeteries in town, which is pretty cool. The LOTSIP grant for the sidewalks, the bulk of that work is done. They are coming back in the spring for a punch list, and then that will be closed. Library roof grant is the same status as the Brownfield grant. I have sent all of my, oh no, I'm sorry, I take that back. We have the executed contract. Santos and I, mostly Santos really, worked up an RFP for the construction. The state is reviewing it. I can't publish it until they say, okay, the RFP that is, so we're just waiting on that. I can't imagine that will take them too much longer. The MISRAC Commission is considering putting together a grant for the T-Mobile Hometown Quarterly Program to do some improvements to Swanson Park, which is the Veterans Memorial Park across from Milltown Grill. We were initially thinking the April round for that, but realistically it's going to be at least the August round. That one's okay. There's no pressing need to hit any particular grant round. We'll just keep working on it until we have a good one. Let's see, that's all 65 main stuff. I think that is it for grant synopses. I always feel like I'm forgetting one, but maybe not.
Possible, you have a lot going. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Jim on the grants?
Not exactly a question, but I got an observation. Picked up some news last night at the inland wetlands meeting, and I don't know if Tara, have you heard about the FEMA floodplain revision?
I know all about it.
Okay. For those of you that don't, it could have some mitigating issues regarding the mill project.
We've already resolved most of those issues.
Well, that's good. That didn't come across last night. What came across last night was that the issues needed to be understood because it changes the floodplain on that part of town. And it gets closer to the mill building. So it seems like Thompson can't catch a break sometimes. I don't know.
No, there was a little misunderstanding because Marla forwarded me that email thread, which included the initial contact to her from Diane Ifkovic. And Diane's email did make it appear that FEMA had not accepted our appeal. regarding the change in flood elevations. They have. We have the letter saying that they have. There is still a corner of the building which is clipped by the mapping of the flood plain, but it is out of the flood way. So that is something that gets that can be resolved by the submission of a letter of map amendment, but the town wouldn't be doing that. The developer's working on that with an engineer. But the big issue, which was that the flood plain had been raised 7 feet in the area of the mill, FEMA accepted our appeal.
It seems like parking lot would be the only other issue then. But that's, you can drive the cars away, but people are.
Yeah, you can have a
So-
parking lot in a flood plain or floodway. You can't have residences, which is what the corner of the building that is still clipped by the flood plain would be dealing with. But in the original mapping that FEMA proposed mapping that FEMA showed us, would have had almost the whole first floor underwater. And everybody knew that was ridiculous. So the developer hired an engineering firm, WMC, to submit that appeal, and they did a great job.
Okay, as long as it's been dealt with, as far as I knew, it was a new issue, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't get blindsided.
Okay. I still have website notes here on the agenda, but I haven't noticed anything on the websites that's been, off or needing attention. Anybody else? No?
We took care of it already, but we did find out this past week that the TBA website link wasn't correct, and the address, it was saying our meetings were still at Our Father's Table. So at some point last week, I went down to the town hall and worked with Renee to take care of that.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't noticed that.
I didn't notice it either. Sarah brought it to my attention.
Okay. Next up, 11th Village Progress, which I don't know of any, but.
There really isn't. I am kind of glad that you leave it on the agenda, because what I'm actually going to ask you to do, Yacino, is try to get over to talk to Mike Joyce about that. And when we have that money encumbered now to the public school, which means whatever work is being done on the existing encumbrance has to be done by them.
Right.
And we're not, I think you and I both agree, we're not going to put any more money towards that project until the phases that have already been begun are completed. And off the top of my head, I think there's still $4,000 in that encumbrance left, which should at the very least finish what we've got already on site.
Right. All right, yeah, I'll see what I can do to contact Mike. All right, next up, we'll still have the train wreck park progress on here as a running agenda item.
Well, the progress is that I'm resubmitting that grant.
Yeah.
That the design work is probably 90% complete, and the pieces that can't be completed, one of them has to do with me sitting down with the butlers and really establishing for once and for all what the path forward is on that 1.1 acre parcel, which currently they own, which I have proposed, and which I think they agree in principle, ultimately should be carved off of their property and ultimately attached to the state property. But there are interim steps there, and no actual terms of transfer have been agreed to. So we've been back and forth a little bit about getting together, but we haven't established a time. They are both very busy and very, very difficult to reach via email. So I do have to get that taken care of sooner rather than later, though.
And then we also keep bicycling in other events, which of course would include the Natchog Epic.
Yeah, another aspect of bicycling has to do with the fact that Wyndham Land Trust is acquiring a significant parcel of land on, I guess it's Buck Hill, it's on the eastern end of town where the Boy Scout property was. And it comes up against Aquatic Forest and Aquatic State Park and the LeClaire property, which the Wyndham Land Trust already had owned. There's going to be a very concerted effort to identify the best bicycling and recreational hiking paths on that whole hillside, which had not been opened until now. So it's just another thing that can be added on to the calendar or added onto the website somewhere, extra bicycling opportunities with gravel roads. And I will send Dan the information about the Natchog Epic. I've been looking for the 2023 website and can't seem to find it.
Oh, I have, I mean, is that the, Tara put one in the chat box.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Let me see.
So I wrote that one down and I already pulled it up on my computer too, so.
Yeah, that is Richard's website.
Okay.
Richard is the coordinator of the whole thing.
Cool. So I got the information. I'll talk to the restaurants about that this week.
Good. Okay, then that's done. Check.
Yep.
Okay. The final item is 65 Main, some of which I already brought up, but yeah, eventually we'll get close to starting to discuss next steps.
We are very close. Santos and I, and B, if you want to jump in on this at any point, please feel free. We had a call, I guess, last week with the architect working on the construction documents. Hoping in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, we're going to get, documents that we can then turn into, again, a bid for construction. We are going to be dancing a tight line on construction budget. There's absolutely no doubt about that, but we will find a way to make it work. And then again, I'm waiting on the Fed from the completed. It's the same thing as all the other ones. I have sent in the signed paperwork on our end to the granting agency, which in this case is USDA, Urban Agriculture Innovation Office. I sent that in December. Just last week on Friday, I got a follow-up email from the program admin, who is my contact, asking me to clarify something in the budget, which I believe I clarified to them. He did not respond after that. I'm hoping that means that the question was answered and that they will therefore move ahead and complete that contract for me. Because the programming piece is only waiting for that. I can start that at any time. There's no RFP. Well, there's one RFP involved in that, which is the permaculture consultant. But it's just the project partners and arranging to pay for their time and, put the public engagement process together, organize it, assemble a charrette for that will meet for, I'm presuming, a period of a year to create the final program report and yada, yada, yada. That has always been intended to run simultaneously with the construction. That still seems likely, but if they're offset by a month or two in one direction or the other, it's not a big deal. Everything is gradual, everything is incremental, but it will all get done because we have signed commitments. So
Yeah.
Just to add one more thing, Tira briefly mentioned it, that the architectural team that we met with recently They're also doing a conceptual estimate line by line based upon their own drawings. And should have that relatively soon. And obviously there's going to need some, in-depth review, which I will do with Tira, and maybe VE some stuff out or do something else or just come up with some other scheme because the budget is running awfully tight. But that is going to be hopefully over the next couple of weeks. And then after that is done, they'll be able to move forward with creating the 100% document to go out to bid. So just wanted to inform people that a detailed estimate should be received soon.
Nice. I would, help you guys look that over if you're interested, if you need help.
Dan, thanks for suggesting that. I actually was going to forward it over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to do some diving into and maybe even some contract management or something along those lines about who's looking at what. And I know you do a lot of this work too, and don't want to create a conflict of interest, but I think I'm going to lean on you kind of heavily on what subs are looking at what portions of work. Because I honestly, Dan, I think what's going to happen here is I don't think the job will be GC'd by, say, like Woodstock Builders or Copeland Builders or someone like yourself. I actually think it's going to be myself and Tira kind of GC in the job and, hiring a roofer and then hiring independent subs here and there to do the work because we just can't afford it.
Right.
So, but we'll get to there and I will engage you at the appropriate time, but it's right around the corner.
Okay, cool.
I made a point when Senator Murphy was up near the end, or I think it was near the end, saying, look, it made sense for me to lowball that budget when Brian first created it for us, because we were trying to get that through the local gatekeepers who wanted everything to be low. I just took that and submitted it. I was throwing that against the wall to see if it would stick to the Fed. If I had that to do over, I would have estimated high because they probably would have awarded it anyway. But I made a point of bringing that up to him because I want to prime that pump to maybe go back and see if there is a way to add on to that appropriation at a later time or resubmit the grant to the same agency to fund next phases. I can't say whether that will or won't happen. The important thing is that we get that facility renoed to the point where it can be used, even if we're buttoning up. Well, we were always going to button up the second and third floor. We'll have to find those strategies. So yeah, if the three of us put our heads together and work on that, I'm sure we can chart a path through. The hazmat abatement is going to eat a chunk. I think Santos and I both have looked at that now and gone, yeah, that's going to be a big part of the budget, especially with everything that's gone on in Putnam, right? There will be no such black eye occurring on this project, 100%.
Got that right.
I don't know about what happened in Putnam.
The Cargill lofts,
Oh, they had issues with that there.
they are dealing with it right now. Yes, and it is a very, very, and I feel terrible for everybody involved who has been so enthusiastic about that project, but it is a big black eye and we will not be in that position. I don't care what we have to do to make sure it's right.
Okay. Well, we can go on to comments by commission members and any suggestions for the next agenda if you have them.
I have some comments
Okay.
on the subject of media and Facebook and things, social media. Occasionally I get a kind of a flash notice from somebody that I've been following, and it goes out to a lot of people. I've never gotten one from Thompson, from any events that or anything that's going on in Thompson. And I don't even get And I don't know why, but I don't even get the regular notices from Thompson Together or other Thompson pages that I had been following. They're just not coming through. So the point is, somehow we ought to be able to use that same technique. And when there's an event that's coming up, whether it's the end of March, we want people to be aware of bicyclists or anything else. We should be able to flash it out to all the people that are following any of the Facebook pages that are advocating for the town. And I say that in part because the bid, the referendum to get money to put the HVAC and those other things was so too close. There's so many negative people in this town that just want to go back to 1850 and stay there, at least as far as what it costs. And I think that the Economic Development Commission has a vested interest in trying to raise the attitude of the typical resident taxpayer, whether they're business owners and operators or not. We shouldn't have to be wondering, do we have enough money to get healthy air in the public school? The last point that I wanted to talk about briefly was at a Zoom hybrid meeting regarding the Trails Committee last Monday, a week ago. And there was no view of anybody that was in the town hall, which is questionable whether that's even legal. If somebody wants to raise an issue about representation, I'm on record. I've been at Board of Selectmen meetings when Zoom started and when we started to have hybrid meetings. We got some good equipment there, but not enough. And it's a bad reflection on this town that we're so far behind the curve on things like that. I hope T-Mobile or Spectrum or Frontier or one of these companies that's providing internet service into the town should be approached for guidance and a grant, because they're supposed to give support to the towns that they're getting, it's their service district. It's not just get money. They're supposed to give us stuff, and we're not asking for it. I don't know why, but it's money and resources that are sitting there. I can't ask for it. Somebody at the town hall letterhead asked.
Charlie, the reason there was no image on the Trails meeting last week was because I didn't hook up the camera. We have not been hooking up the room camera for the Trails meetings when we've done hybrids. If you would like me to do that, I can do that. We just generally haven't considered it to be worth the trouble.
Even if we use the camera, you can't see all the people that are sitting at the table. You can't see people that are making comments unless they go to a certain spot. It's just a very poor plan. And we should be doing better. I can understand where you might not have turned it on because it's the Trails Committee. But the Board of Selectmen or any other group that's meeting down there, we should be able to follow what's going on with the Finance Committee from home. We should be able to.
I believe that the camera is always set up for the policymaking boards. I can't speak conclusively for Selectmen or Finance or Ed. But Planning and Zoning, which is the policymaking board that I do, both advise and facilitate the meetings, we absolutely set the room camera up. And you can probably see about 85 to 90% of the room at the angle we set it up. But we do have a limited angle at which we can do it because it's all got to hook into my laptop and the television. So we don't have infinite room to manipulate where the camera angle is, but we do absolutely 100% during P&Z have the camera on. We've occasionally lost signal to the camera, but that's only happened once or twice.
Well, I still think, and you got me on record, I'm not going to beat this dead horse, but we should be able to get some really good guidance from Spectrum or from some other company that's got telecommunication as their business and they're doing business in town. And we should be able to get somebody that would come in and look at the town hall and say, okay, if you did this and this and this, it's going to cost you about $15,000. And oh, maybe they got a grant. I don't know. We don't have all of the answers. And Tara, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that there's a situation that needs better talent than we have right now to put together a plan. And that is something that economic development needs to be keeping an eye on.
No, it's fine, Charlie. I didn't feel blamed. I just wanted you to know what the actual physical factors were
Okay, as I
that were
said,
going on in there.
I've watched the meetings and I can't see or hear significant parts of what's being transacted in that room. And I don't think that that's correct, and I don't think that it's necessary. I believe it can be fixed. I used to work public television programs down in Rhode Island when I lived down there. You know, I know what the studios are down there. We don't want that studio at our town hall, but we should be able to conduct a meeting there and look like we're grown-ups. Look like we're in this century. The horse is done.
And anybody else have comments?
I just have a question based on Charlie's first comment there. Does the town have a social media manager, a program at all for that?
For social media in general.
Yeah.
So that was the intern. And we did that for the first time in 2019. We started with an actual social media intern who did a great job while the first one while he was here for just about a full year, his senior year of high school before he went off to Emerson. Passed it off to another very good social media intern, and this essentially is the problem with running it as an internship instead of just as a part-time job for an adult. The academic and extracurricular schedule became untenable for her, and she got a part-time job where she was able to make more money with more hours in like after school hours. So at that time, somewhere around that time, we went to a 2 intern thing, one doing social media and one doing events coordination for rec.
Mhm.
But the events coordination one kind of morphed into a real part-time job in the rec office, and we never really replaced the social media intern. So that is why I have proposed, and it's budget neutral, right? So it really shouldn't be an issue, moving the intern out of the EDC budget into an employee under my office budget, and then hiring that person for whatever it is, 8 hours a week, 10 hours. I have to sit down with the HR manager so that we will again get back to that, because when we had those interns, we were doing a better job. There's nobody at town hall that it fits neatly into their job.
Mhm.
There are people who take on pieces of it and get some stuff on social media, and we'll manage to get important news articles on the town webpage for things like referenda. And of course, I write a lot of press releases for the media. But it's an awkward fit for everybody who's doing it. So that's the whole purpose of changing it from an intern to a person. So hopefully in fiscal year, when it rolls on July 1, we'll be able to go out for an actual part-time employee who will report directly to me and be supervised by me.
So what is that general idea of how much money's involved in the budget for that? Because I just have a suggestion. I mean, why not? Like, I have it's a new company. I don't know. They've been in business for a couple of years, but it's couple of young people that do my social media marketing, and they kill it. And it's not that expensive. I pay $400 a month, and they kill it. Like, so bringing in somebody like that, I think would be a great idea.
that might be an option too. We are proposing it as a person so that an employee as opposed to a contractor, partly so that it can be supervised by me, at least until that person, gets their legs under them, whoever they are.
Mhm.
It's a very small amount of money. And because we wanted it to be budget neutral, at least in this first season, you're talking about a minimum wage of and maybe as many as 10 hours a week. And I think that since minimum wage went up or is going up to $15 an hour, it's probably even less than that. So realistically, I think I'm looking at, mother's hours kind of thing, somebody who I can trust to come in maybe 2 hours a day here and there. I'm not opposed to it being done on a contract, but I suspect that it would be a very cheap contract to somebody who's doing it as their bread and butter.
Unless it was set up as, for example, 20 hours a month that they could work within their other staff, their whole staff. I don't know. You're right. It's harder to control a contractor.
And since part of what we would be asking them to do, Dan, is probably to do some maintenance of the municipal website as well, there might be a comfort level in an actual employee of the town as opposed to a contractor of the town doing that.
Okay.
But that's me theorizing. That's not me saying it would absolutely be that. I think it's an easier sell to call it an employee, especially since it's already a payroll line.
Yeah. I'm just throwing the idea out there. If you never know. And the other thing, when you say that about the website too, I think of Jody. We all, well, I don't know if we all know her, but I know Tira, you do, and Brian, you do. And she lives right here in town, and she's like amazing at websites. So and just putting those things out there.
Just based on the estimate that Jody gave me when I was asking her about maybe helping me set up a website, since I have that thing coming up this month with Relics Magazine.
Mhm.
I don't think the town could realistically afford Jody's services. Now, I don't know what the other social media management company that you've been working with, well, you just told us what their rates are. I'd have to figure out how that actually adds up. But even that sounds beyond our means.
Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to throw it out there. That's all.
No, I appreciate it, because it's something I would consider in maybe the next budget cycle.
Right. And I mean, we're like with the TBA and the whole social media thing there. Now we've got SP Digital, Stephanie, who's stepped up to do that for us for free. And so we're like attacking that, and we're doing really good on that front. So that's gonna just continue to grow.
Yeah, what I will do, Dan, I'm glad you mentioned Stephanie, because she might be a person that I send the listing to. I don't know how she would feel about doing that as an employee instead of a contractor to us, but for the amount of hours we'd be asking, it's not like she couldn't theoretically do both. I just think we'd have to do it as an employee.
Right. Yeah, she might be interested too, for sure. Cool.
I just have a couple quick comments to add on to some of these budgetary kind of suggestions. I hear you, Charlie, on the technology in the in certain spaces in town hall, in particular, Merrill-Sini Hall there. But Tira and I have talked about that in the past, and so haven't myself and Amy. But all of this comes down to budget line items, and I wouldn't mind every single one on this call to take a look at the budget. I will be attending the Board of Finance meeting tomorrow night. I'm going to be paying particular attention to their strategies on the budget and seeing what type of logic that they're talking about when they're reviewing such line items as technology for town hall, or hiring of employees such as marketing and things like that, because I'm very interested to see to what level of education and knowledge these guys and gals are talking about at this meeting. So as I said in the town meeting, when I presented the 3 projects that were in referendum, I kind of get a little shot across the bow that I will be attending those Board of Finance meetings and paying particular attention to those things. So if you want to come on down to the Board of Finance meeting, sit right next to me, we can have a good time. All right, putting that to the side, I wanted to let everybody know that the track is out to bid as of today. And myself and the building committee are trying to get that installed this summer, just to push that right along. The HVAC job, we are waiting for the state to respond to us on the granting. As the referendum stated, we are waiting to see what the state is going to do, and they need to respond to us. And then the overall security entrances stuff is being evaluated by the building committee, so I can't really talk in detail about that, but that's being moved forward as well. And Charlie and the rest of the group, I know Charlie in particular with sustainable design and green building practices. This 1 meg solar project is back on the table, and Connecticut Green Bank is putting that back out to the state to see if we qualify this year. And the qualification guidelines has been modified much to our advantage. And I'm hoping that we are successful this year and can build that 1 meg solar project, hopefully at some point next year. So I just wanted to let everybody know about those few updates. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
One quick thought. Brian mentioned track. What happened to the pickleball court? Is that gone or?
No, they're just waiting. The first procedure, which was pulling the stumps from underneath and laying the paving down, was done in the fall and had to be left to cure. So they're coming back in the spring to do the actual surfacing.
On the last note, I thought some of one of the big focuses of the federal money that was coming down, it actually was voted on back in the last presidential administration, but it was something about broadband and improving broadband in the community. And it seems to me that what I was talking about with better communication into and out of our public meetings touches on that as well. So there should be money out there.
No, there has
don't
been,
know.
Charlie. There was a big one that came out, middle of last year, late spring, early summer, early whatever it was. And I made 2 attempts to partner with a couple of developers to create a viable application. Just so you know, those grants coming down from the Fed for broadband, they are huge, but they also have matching components, right? So unless you have a partner with deep pockets, which is what I was trying to work on, they are out of reach for municipalities. Or unless you're a larger municipality and you have money like that socked aside but Thompson is not that community. And some of the con calls that potential partnership had seemed promising. Some of them seemed like they were spinning wheels. And in the end, the members of the partnership that I really would have had to rely on, both to show the financing stack and to provide some of the technical expertise, it wasn't time efficient for them. So we mothballed it. That's mostly a capacity issue that we would have in pursuing those federal broadband grants. It doesn't mean that we won't have another opportunity, but the big ones that came out last year, which were either a part of the first American Rescue Plan or the inflation reduction, you know, you lose track of which acronym is which. They were just beyond our reach.
Again, that's another reason to contact Spectrum and see what they've got. They might be able to cut prices. Anyway, drive safely if you're driving.
Yeah. What else? Joe, do you have anything to say?
I'm already talking myself out.
Joanne?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Just
I-
check.
I have one more quick thing I want to throw out there right before we get out of here, is this crazy idea that I popped in my head a couple of weeks ago, and I think this is the right place to get it out. Has there ever been any talk about, you know, all the mills, and they're getting ready to redo the big mill with the 300 apartments and everything, and all that history? Like, there's that new museum that just opened up in Webster that's all about Samuel Slater and the history of the mills. And like, I just thought that, you know, maybe there's some way that we could tie in and get some traffic into Thompson with that.
With the Slater History Museum thing?
Well, tie it in with them, maybe. My thought was that, you know, they would be just a good place to talk to and say, hey, you know, Thompson is full of that old mill history too. Is there any way that we could tie it in? Maybe a little something could be part of when they redo the whole mill, where there would be something that was preserved where people could come and check it out here in town as well.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, Dana. And I know that something similar to that has been discussed in public engagement meetings. I mean, we are going back a couple of years now. In terms of the developer working on the big mill, I think he's, you know, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think he would be generally amenable to that, but that's going to be way down on his priority list until we wrap some of these really pressing legal, financing, and cleanup issues. But, you know, technically that the big mill, the sale is going to include that building that they call the candy shop or the hardware store, whatever. And that building in particular was discussed for just such a purpose. Now, I will tell you, I know that that building is in really bad shape. I'm fairly confident there's black mold in there. Like that would be a major gut. And again, not a profitable part of the project. So even if he wants to do it there, that is so far down on that list. But I think that that is something that everyone is kind of interested in, at least in the abstract.
Right. Yeah, like I said, it was just a thought that popped into my head when I was driving through town, and I thought this would be a good place to put it out there. I've met the guy that funded the project in Webster. You know, and he just literally, I don't know what he does, but that was just like a personal project. He dumped millions of dollars into that so you never, just talking to him and putting that idea in his head, you never know what could happen from that. So
I'm certain that Thompson Historical Society has all sorts of photographs and articles about the mills. And I recall that Samuel Slater was instrumental in building one of the mills that was in town, but it's completely gone. I don't even know where it was. It's completely gone now. It was one of the first ones.
Yeah, that's something maybe our historical.
Yeah, I've seen the photographs at the small museum over here in the Ellen Leonard Library.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember if I've seen it.
Oh, like I said, I just wanted to get that out of my head, and never know what could happen.
It is a great idea, and not off the table, but just not coming to fruition anytime soon.
It's the kind of thing that it's kind of like the train wreck park in a way, where local involvement can put together a lot of background stuff and make it available when it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years down the road. But if progress happens on that mill, there will be a point where we can say, include this.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You can never be over prepared for something happening later.
Yeah. As long as you remember where you put it.
It's not funny, Charlie.
Oh, no. Watch this.
So anyway, next meeting is March 15th. Same bat channel. So in the meantime, if you have ideas for the next agendas, email them over. And if we're all set, I'd just like to adjourn at exactly 7:30.
Wow.
Great,
Yeah.
great job, guys. Thank you. See
Hey.
you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Have a great night. Good night, thank
Night.
you.
Night.